Today, I would like to talk about ESG investing. ESG is an abbreviation and stands for environment, social, and governance. The idea behind ESG investing is having a positive impact on the world through your financial investments into various companies and stocks. While in theory, this sounds like a good idea, it is, as very often, much more complex in reality. So I would like to take a few minutes to talk about what ESG investing means, what the challenges are, and how we at WHVP stand in regards to that topic. So ESG investing, again, while it sounds like a good idea or is a good idea in theory, it is very hard to actually measure the environmental, social, and governance impact a company has onto the world and the planet. Some things are very easy to measure, like, for example, carbon emissions or the diversity in a board of directors, but then other things are much harder to evaluate. And then oftentimes with larger international companies, we also have very long supply chains where the question is the company also responsible for the ESG elements of the suppliers? How far back or how far along do we want to measure those impacts? So it is very hard to say what the actual ESG impact on a company is. There are, of course, frameworks, and there are companies and institutions that specialize on giving out ESG ratings on certain companies. However, my personal belief is, and also our stance as a firm, that you have to think deeper than just a standardized ESG rating, and you have to think about what your personal values are and which part of the ESG matrix is important to you. Because if you're very much against child labor, and that's very important to you to not invest into a company that employs child labor, this company might at the same time have very good governance, a very good board of directors, a very good management team with very diverse people on it. So while the company might be good in one aspect of the ESG matrix, it might not be so good in another aspect of the ESG matrix. And then, of course, the other problem that we see is it's a lot easier to give ratings for products that invest in a variety of companies, whereas we as a firm only make direct investments into larger firms, and those are very hard to evaluate because there are so many different dimensions to ESG. So that means we very much are against greenwashing, which is another expression in terms of ESG that relates to companies that make it seem like they are good on track in terms of ESG metrics and have a good rating, where they hide maybe some less ESG conform ways of doing business. So as a company that does mainly direct investments into companies, it's very important for us to understand the value system of our clients. It's very important to understand what is important to the clients we talk to, which aspects are placed very highly in their personal assessments of values and what is less important to them, and then make sure that we build a portfolio that reflects the personal beliefs of that person without claiming to have a fully compliant ESG portfolio, because we don't really have a way of assessing all firms for all metrics in the ESG matrix as a 5-person company. I personally think it's better to be straightforward and honest with the clients about what you can do in terms of ESG and what you cannot do, instead of overpromising things that are just not doable in practice. Again, if you're investing into funds, you can look for ESG ratings if that is something that's important to you. But if you're going to do direct investments into stocks and international companies, you will have to think about which metrics in the ESG sphere are more important to you than others. Because, for example, having a good governance as a company is essential for long-term sustainable business growth. If you don't have good corporate governance, then that's going to be a problem in terms of generating long-term growth. So some ESG metrics are always being considered, or should always be considered, when investing in a company, whereas another metric, like, for example, a low carbon footprint, might not necessarily be needed in order to have a good investment cost, but might be important to you as an investor. So for me, it's very important that you as a client always talk to your financial advisor and talk about what specifically is important to you in terms of the investments you make. also when it comes to ethical considerations, and then to build a tailor-made portfolio that fits your personal worldview and your convictions better than just believing in an ESG label that might have been greenwashed before, that might put an emphasis on some parts of the ESG matrix that are less important to you.